Good day, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Conversations with AARP. I'm Troy Deshabir-Schuster, your host and State Director for AARP in this territory. In today's evolving digital era, it's crucial to bridge the digital gap, particularly for our older adults. At AARP, we're fighting for technology to be both accessible and affordable, while enhancing digital literacy among older Americans. We recognize at this moment in our digital journey and the impact of digital equity initiatives help to advance this territory. Today, we have invited Jaughna Nielsen-Bobbit, the Director of Digital Equity and Inclusion for the Virgin Islands Next Generation, viNGN. viNGN is at the forefront of building the Virgin Islands into a digital powerhouse. Our conversation today will highlight the efforts of viNGN in fostering digital equity and how their work aligns with AARP's vision for accessible and affordable technology. This includes the roles of the Digital Equity Act of 2021 and the Affordable Connectivity Program. Today, we will take a deeper dive into the far-reaching impact of the Digital Equity Act, a major initiative of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021, and its benefits for the Virgin Islands. We also aim to spotlight on how this act is instrumental in helping to close the gap of digital divide in this territory. We'll also discuss viNGN's vision in creating an inclusive environment of accessible and affordable internet for everyone. These efforts, which we are thrilled to share with you, are paramount in transforming the digital landscape of the Virgin Islands. So stay with us as we discuss how these initiatives are reshaping the digital future in the Virgin Islands, ensuring that every Virgin Islander, regardless of age or ability, is part of this ever-changing digital world. Now we welcome Jaughna Nielsen-Bobbit to the Virgin Islands Next Generation Network. Jaughna, welcome to the show.
Hey, good day, Troy. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving viNGN an opportunity to speak about digital equity initiatives in the territory.
Thank you. And so viNGN, Virgin Islands Next Generation, that's what the acronym stands for?
Virgin Islands Next Generation Network.
Network, yes, Virgin Islands Next Generation Network. And so what does viNGN do here in the Virgin Islands in general?
Absolutely, that is a great question. So viNGN was founded a little more than 10 years ago via federal funds. It was founded to essentially lay fiber in the ground from which internet service providers could draw from to provide affordable high-speed internet in the territory. So what does that mean? That's kind of the what's written in the grant. So essentially, viNGN laid a core ring of fiber. So there's actually enough fiber, which is what the internet runs on. There's enough fiber in the ground in the territory to power the internet of New York City. There's quite a lot of infrastructure under our streets or under our roads. So viNGN laid this ring, and from that, internet service providers, be they the bigger ones that everyone knows or the smaller locally owned ones, pull from that ring to provide services directly to the homes. So viNGN does not provide internet service directly to a home, but we do provide it to the internet service provider at a bulk rate for them to then provide to individual houses. The company, viNGN is a public corporation. It's owned by the Virgin Islands. It's the people's internet middle mile carrier. And our charter is essentially to bring down the cost of internet. Well, I say that fully knowing, as I live in the Virgin Islands, that internet here is very expensive. So that is the goal of the founding of viNGN, and we're still working towards that goal every day. And obviously, haven't quite achieved it yet, but very much working towards it.
So we hear a lot about global crossing
Hmm.
and that we have the presumably the very best internet on the planet coming through
Hmm.
St. Croix.
Yeah.
So how does viNGN interface with global crossing, and then is it our correct understanding that viNGN creates that bridge to then local internet service providers? Tell us a little more about that.
That might be outside of my scope a bit. That might be a question for some of our technical folks. Mine's far smarter than I am. But essentially, what happens is there's difference between fiber and what people receive in their homes. Some internet service providers will give direct fiber to someone's home. That tends to be the fastest of the internet. Other internet service providers take the fiber from viNGN and they mix it with some kind of infrared or some kind of transmission. That tends to be the slower internet. So a lot of times what you get in your home depends on who you're with and what kind of internet they're providing to you. But everyone does have equal access to the fiber that comes in.
Okay, great. So in his recent State of the Territory address, Governor Bryan spoke about the importance of technology in advancing the Virgin Islands in this digital era. How does the Virgin Islands Next Generation Network align with the governor's vision for technology and its impact on Virgin Islanders?
Yeah, absolutely. viNGN aligns with the governor's plan. As I mentioned, the core or the charter of this public corporation is to bring down the cost of internet in the territory. And maybe let me even back up for a second. So when we talk about digital equity or digital inclusion, that's a very fancy way of saying we live in a society where everyone should have access to three things: affordable high-speed internet, devices to use affordable high-speed internet, and the skills to feel comfortable using affordable high-speed internet. And so between the fiber that viNGN lays or the grants which we will speak about that are coming into the territory around digital equity, those are all working in lockstep to ensure every Virgin Islander, and just like the Biden-Harris administration is trying to ensure that every American has access to those three tenets, those three foundations of digital equity, which is access to high speed, affordable, very important internet, devices. So, not just a smartphone, but do you have a laptop? Are you creating content? Smartphones are great for consuming content, but they're not great for creating content. So, do you have access to tablets, laptops, desktops? And do you have the skills to use them? Maybe you have a laptop, but you don't feel comfortable using it. So, those are the three core tenets that we're really trying to focus on moving forward under digital equity and inclusion initiatives.
So let's go deeper into digital equity and share with us a more detailed overview of the work being undertaken by the Virgin Islands Next Generation Network with regards to digital equity.
Sure. Sure. So if you don't mind, I'd like to divide it into two sections. So I'll speak specifically about what viNGN is doing, and then I'd like to speak a little bit about kind of what the funding and the political energy is around internet from the Biden-Harris administration. So maybe let me start with that side. So as you mentioned, under the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, the Biden-Harris administration passed the Internet for All initiative. So this is a multi-billion-dollar initiative across the United States, which includes the 40 states, Puerto Rico, and the 4 territories to address those three tenets. So do we all have access to high-speed internet? I know I say that, but I'll continue to say it. Do we have devices and do we have skills? So under this broader Internet for All umbrella, there's been a lot of funding coming into the territory to help meet those three tenets. Some of those funding has gone to viNGN. Some of the funding has gone to other entities. For instance, the University of Virgin Islands received a grant to help upgrade some of their internet infrastructure for students and faculty. That's making things easier for students at UVI. That's under this Internet for All initiative. viNGN is expanding access to community Wi-Fi hotspots. I'm not sure if your listeners know, but viNGN has set up free high-speed Wi-Fi hotspots across the territory, including Water Island. There's one at the Water Island Fire Station. They're on St. Croix, from Budhoe Park and Frederickstead all the way out to Christiansted, to the Lagoon, actually. There's spots across St. Thomas. There's spots in Cruz Bay and later be expanded to Coral Bay. So that's another part under the Internet for All initiative. What's also coming down is some of your listeners may have heard about the BEAD funding and the digital equity funding. Those two grants are specifically to look at digital skills and programs. So that's the side I feel very blessed to work on, to say, how are we supporting and equipping the community, AARP members, everyone from all ages, to not only get devices, but to feel comfortable using that, whether it's to create, whether it's to access healthcare, or whether it's to learn more or change jobs, look for jobs, upskill. So that's one of those grants. OMB is managing the BEAD side, which looks a little bit more at infrastructure. So are there enough hotspots? Are there enough devices? So there's different funding that's coming together under this larger Internet for All initiative that might seem like they're not related, but they're all working together towards this goal. Does that make sense? Is that?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
I'll ask again just to make sure
Oh, yes,
that I'm
please.
understanding it well. So the Internet for All has two two prongs, if you will. That's making sure that everybody has access to the internet, and then that everybody is able to actually use the internet, like through devices and so forth. Am I correct in that understanding? And having devices.
Yes, but missing one prong. So the third prong is device. So do you have the laptop or the tablet? Do you have the glucometer, the glucose meter with the smartphone? So access to the internet, affordable, first prong, device, second prong, and then skills is the third prong. So together, some of the funding streams focus on maybe prong one and two, the access and devices. Some of the funding focuses on devices and skills, but the idea is that they will all work together in the territory to make sure that Virgin Islands feel comfortable across these three aspects.
Okay, and all of this comes together under digital equity then.
Well, digital equity is kind of the new political or the new fancy buzzword of it. But yes, it all comes together under digital equity. There is also a specific funding stream called the Digital Equity Planning and Capacity Grant. I'm not sure if some of your listeners heard about it or attended. I conducted a few community workshops around them to get input from the community. And that digital equity grant is very specific on the devices and the skills side of it. So we're borrowing language here and there, but digital equity is the big umbrella. And then there's a specific digital equity grant, which will be used to fund community organizations to help address devices and skills. The infrastructure money is still under digital equity, Internet for All, but those have different names. So it gets a little confusing.
Okay, so again, we have digital equity, which covers those three prongs we just talked about, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is access to the internet, the devices, and then the skills to use the devices. But
Correct.
the digital equity grant focuses on the devices and the skills.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, now we're getting it all together. And so the first part about the access to the internet, am I correct in saying that is almost complete at this point with hotspots and internet access everywhere, or is that still an
Oh
ongoing?
no, absolutely still ongoing. As so, as if this isn't confusing enough, access is also divided into speed and affordability. So it's not enough that you can access the internet. Is your access affordable? I pay for internet in the territory I live here. I know it's expensive, so we have to address the affordability aspect. Also, is your speed adequate? What we learned during COVID in the territory across the United States was that when it came time for kids and parents and families, or even individual older adults, to come home and have to function digitally or have to function with the outside world via remote technology, sometimes the internet wasn't fast enough. Some families did not have fast enough internet for two kids to be on e-learning to do their studies, while one parent or a grandparent or a caregiver did their telemedicine or worked. So there's different aspects to there's different aspects to access that still need to be addressed in the territory and are being addressed. viNGN is contributing towards those efforts through community hotspots, free hotspots, Liberty VI, which used to be broadband VI, was awarded money by the FCC to build out to some of the areas that are yet to be connected. So that looks like the North Shore on St. Croix. We know that those have dead zones, if you will, where you get out there, you don't have internet. We know Coral Bay has issues. So Liberty VI receives money from the federal government to extend to some of these houses that are not connected. Virgin Islands Next Generation, or viNGN, we are also about to do a fiber run out to Coral Bay, which should help to bring the cost down, to households out in Coral Bay. So it's still an ongoing challenge in the territory. Some of that is because of how naturally beautiful mountains make it difficult, concrete structures. Wi-Fi most people don't know this, Wi-Fi in a concrete house or a concrete apartment, they don't go together. So really and truly, you need some kind of booster. So that might go under the devices. Okay, now people have access. Let's try and get boosters into everyone's home so that when you're in the back room, you still have that same internet than when you're close to the router. So it's a little more complicated, but again, through this Internet for All funding, those are the things that viNGN is looking to address, and other actors in the territory are also looking to address.
So focusing then on the digital equity grant, the devices and the skills to use the devices, where are we with that, and how do people access that?
That is a great question. So it's what keeps me up at night. No, I'm kidding. So the grant was wonderful and unusual in that it's a two-part grant. So the territory is anticipated to get around $8 million, which will be funneled into community organizations, small businesses, and some local government agencies that interface directly with the community. So at the end of the day, this money is looking to get down to the community level. We do understand that there are issues in the territory related to infrastructure, how the health system talks to itself electronically, how government agencies talk to themselves electronically. But we decided, after having conversations with different community actors, the workshops, that the plan for digital equity would be to trickle it down to the community, because that would be the best bang for our buck. This is not to put anyone on blast. We know we could put it into some government infrastructure, but we might still come out $8 million later with that not fixed. So let's put that into the community where people can directly get to a computer literacy course. I know AARP did financial literacy courses. So that's the plan for the digital equity grant. The first part of the grant is putting together a plan, which literally I have to submit today. So that's what I've been working on based on the community workshops and engagements that we've had over the last 6 months. We've done a lot of one-on-one interviews. I'm sure some of your listeners might recognize me or know my name. I'm sure I reached out to them and said, let's talk about this. So today I submit the plan. The NTIA, which is the federal donor for the digital equity grant, which again, as you mentioned, deals with devices and skills. They will review it. It then comes back to us, and we are anticipating to get it out for public comment before the end of the month. So I will let you know when it's ready for the public to review. It's essentially the plan of how the $8 million will be spent on community programs. So I'm very excited. viNGN has worked very hard to put this together. It has been a labor of love, 6 months of lot of interfacing with the community, of hearing what people had to say. Not all of it was good, and you know what? That's important too. Some people said, I don't want the internet. That's their right as well. And we talked about why. So it's been a real labor of love. So the plan should be out for public comment and review before the end of the month. It will be out for 30 days. After that, hopefully we don't have too many revisions. It goes back to the federal government for its blessing, and we anticipate to be able to sub-grant money to different community organizations to start offering digital programs, to be able to purchase and procure devices, to do trainings if their staff need to go to the States and be trained, if someone needs to come down and train their staff, to offer the full range of services and needs, both to the community actors who will be serving the community, and to the community,